Impacto global absoluto. Putin formaliza el apoyo a la India y pone la alerta al Pentágono y a Pakistán sin piedad. Después de su última aparición en la televisión india, vamos a estar viendo qué es lo que decía el mismísimo Putin, cómo ha confirmado a estos medios de comunicación que va a estar defendiendo a sus grandes amigos. También recordemos que tenemos documentación, hemos hecho varios programas sobre este asunto, en uno de ellos en los que a Vladimir Putin se le ve diciendo y explicando a los indios por qué existe esa operación militar, como él lo llama, y no guerra contra los ucranianos. Lo explica muy bien, por lo tanto vamos a estar también compartiendo algunas imágenes para que entendáis la motivación que hizo que Vladimir Putin llevase a cabo esa invasión a los ucranianos. Muy interesante. Vamos a ver qué es lo que tiene que confesar alrededor de esta situación sobre el apoyo a los indios después, recordemos, de ese ataque agravado que también existía por parte de los Estados Unidos de América. Según dice Modi, que no puede permitir es que Estados Unidos le tarife, le ponga restricciones simplemente por estar también comprando gas y petróleo de Rusia, ¿no? Vamos a escucharlo, atención.
We fought for by legal means. Anything associated with criminal methods, with causing harm to people, cannot be supported. For us, this is a profoundly significant question that was definitively settled a very long time ago. As you have quite correctly noted, the Russian Federation has repeatedly and tragically faced the most brutal and devastating acts of terror throughout its recent and challenging history. With India, we are a full ally, and we fully and completely support India in its fight against terrorism. Every country has its share of problems, and Afghanistan probably does as well, especially considering the fact that for decades now, this country has been...
Bueno, aquí claramente ya se está posicionando a favor de India en el tema Pakistán, recordemos, ¿no? Pakistán ahora mismo que llevaba a cabo presuntamente ataques, ¿no? Que estaba llevando a cabo contra la India, y aquí ya está diciendo, no, nosotros vamos a apoyar a India. Por lo tanto, evidentemente este es un golpe brutal que se le está dando a Pakistán y también, evidentemente, a los Estados Unidos de América. Vamos a seguir escuchando a Putin.
In a state of civil war, and that's just terrible. But the Taliban controls the situation in Afghanistan. That is obvious. That's the first thing, and these are simply the realities that must be acknowledged. Secondly, the government of Afghanistan is still doing a lot to fight against the same terrorism, against terrorist organizations, for example, against ISIS and some other similar groups. We are well aware of this as well. And the dedicated leadership of Afghanistan has significantly reduced opium cultivation within the country several times over and is actively taking concrete and effective steps to comprehensively reduce the pervasive drug threat emanating from Afghan territory. We have always firmly believed that in order to truly solve the complex Palestinian problem, it is absolutely necessary to fully implement the crucial decisions that have been carefully made and formally adopted over many, many years by the esteemed United Nations. And the main one among them is the creation of an independent Palestinian state. This is the key to solving all the problems. Each of these countries, in its own way, cares deeply and worries about Palestine, about the Palestinian people. And each of these countries is trying to make its own contribution to resolving the situation. Some of these efforts are...
Atención, porque aquí ya está también confirmando el tema de que se están uniendo a los palestinos, ¿eh? Cuidado con esto. Así que también este es un claro golpe hacia los Estados Unidos de América y hacia Israel. Se ve que Putin está mostrando cada vez más fuerza alrededor de todo el mundo. Sabe que se puede meter en nuevas guerras porque, bueno, así lo está demostrando también en Ucrania, según todo apunta, esa fortaleza que está teniendo a la hora, ¿no?, de poder estar invadiendo varias ciudades a un ritmo vertiginoso prácticamente.
Visible and obvious, while others remain in the shadows, but that does not mean that no one is doing anything. And this is a complicated issue, I repeat. It hasn't been resolved for decades, so it's impossible to solve it with a snap of the fingers in just a few months. But this is exactly what we should strive for, the creation of a Palestinian state. And now what has been done was, of course, done by President Trump, First and foremost, Israeli hostages were returned and Hamas took this step. It seems to me that, frankly speaking, this is actually the most important thing that has been done in the recent steps toward resolving the situation in Gaza. There are several such powerful intelligence agencies in the world. There's the CIA, there's our Soviet and Russian intelligence, and as is well known, very effective, by the way, is Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. In many countries around the world, there is a tradition of developing special services. Perhaps it's better for me not to evaluate the effectiveness of other countries' intelligence services. I am satisfied with the quality of work of our own.
Bueno, ya lo dice, ¿no? La FSB es uno de los mejores servicios de inteligencia del mundo, pero curiosamente lo que dice Putin, que es muy interesante, es que la Mossad seguramente sea uno de los mayores o los mejores servicios de inteligencia que tiene el mundo, ya lo ha dicho él. Estoy de acuerdo con eso, o sea, la Mossad, el MI6, FSB y la CIA seguramente sean los mejores, pero bueno, no quiere meterse tampoco con los servicios de inteligencia indios, que también deben tener, ¿no?, su notoriedad, pero no tanta como los que ha estado nombrando. Vamos a escuchar, como habíamos dicho, la motivación que hizo que Rusia llevase a cabo esa invasión a Ucrania. Atención.
And that was ancient Rus. And since then, Kiev was called the mother of Russian cities. They lived in that part of Ukraine, in that part of the Luhansk or Donetsk region, which was under the control of the Kiev authorities. But the part of the Luhansk or Donetsk region that was not under control was being destroyed by the Kiev regime. And we were forced to begin providing support to the part that declared its independence. First. Second, we gave people the opportunity to express themselves in an open referendum. Those who thought it was appropriate to be together with Russia voted for it. Those who did not could freely move to other parts of the Ukrainian state. Please, we did not interfere with that. When this gentleman came to power, he declared that he would strive for peace by any means. And he said he would spare nothing for this, including his own career. But as we can see, now everything looks completely different. He, like his predecessors, began to be guided not by the interests of the people, but by the interests of a narrow group of nationalists, radically minded nationalists at that, and in fact is serving their agenda. And this regime, it is very much in its mentality, it really does resemble a neo-Nazi regime, because the extreme form of nationalism and neo-Nazism are almost the same thing. They're essentially the same. These are almost equivalent concepts.
Bueno, lo que comentaba desde el principio del inicio de la guerra, ¿no?, o de la operación militar especial, acabar con el nazismo. Esto ya lo dijo Putin y así lo está indicando, ¿no? O sea, darle tanto poder a Kiev, que ellos controlaban varias zonas del este, pero que al final, pues, puede ser que se le fuera de las manos, o por lo menos esto es lo que está diciendo Putin. ¿Qué es lo que opináis de estas conversaciones de Putin en India? Dejad en los comentarios, amigos. Nos vemos en el próximo capítulo. Hasta luego.